Here with us, also with us, former board member of the Reserve Bank, in fact, the longest-serving board member of the Reserve Bank of India, Mr. YH Malegam. Mr. Malegam, a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. We now have the official statement from the Reserve Bank of India on the crucial issue of the capital reserves framework. A new committee will be set up on the prompt corrective action framework. An existing committee will take a review of matters and decide whether any relaxation is necessary. A new scheme for MSMEs, and as far as Basel requirements are concerned, no significant change being made either. In a sense, it looks like this is an issue that will no longer dominate the front pages of newspapers or television screens, at least till the next board meeting, sir. A healthy outcome, you believe?
Yes. What is it? Sorry.
I was just asking you what you make of the Reserve Bank statement and whether you think that this is a healthy outcome, sir.
No, I think this is a good statement because it was obviously whether there is adequacy or not has to be determined periodically. And therefore this committee will, I'm sure, will look into these matters and see whether the capital reserves and the provisions which are carried in the balance sheet of the Reserve Bank are adequate to meet the risks to which the Reserve Bank is exposed.
Okay. Mr. Malegam, good evening, sir. Your own committee had said much the same, that you assess the capital to be adequate for now, and for the next 3 years, the entire surplus could be transferred, and a view should be taken after 3 years. That 3 years ended in 2016. So you think it is in the fitness of things that a new committee is appointed?
Yes, I think it is, because all we had said was that we had examined the adequacy. At that point of time, the reserves were adequate, and therefore there was no need to add anything more. And therefore we recommended that for the next 3 years you distribute the full surplus. But we also recommended that the position can change, and therefore you review the whole matter at the end of 3 years. This is what they are doing, and I think it's the right approach.
Okay. Well, the other takeaway from the press release appears to be that there is no move to make the board more activist. The word used is the board has advised the RBI to consider a scheme for restructuring, etc., etc. Do you, I mean, what are your comments on that situation, that the board has not been made activist, or it is not directing the RBI?
I think that is exactly what I had been recommending also, that the board has in fact not just a power but a duty to examine matters and to advise the Reserve Governor as on their views, and the Governor in fact uses the board as a sounding board for whatever policies are there. But therefore, having advised, if the board or the members are of a view that a particular policy needs to reconsideration, they can request the Governor to make the reconsideration. But that is not directing him to make a change.
Well, certainly in the statement, it very categorically states that on the issue of the MSME package, that the board advised the Reserve Bank, and hence this decision has been taken. But Mr. Malegam, I'm given to understand, sir, that the governance-related issues are going to be taken up at the next board meeting, which is on the 14th of December. So whether or not the board functions should change, whether it continues to be in an advisory capacity, etc. These perhaps are matters that will be taken up at the next meeting of the Reserve Bank of India. What would your advice be ahead of that meeting, sir, on this particular issue?
Well, advise on what are the issues on which you particularly...
The fact that the government may want a review of the regulation to ensure that the RBI becomes a board-managed institution.
No, I think that would be wrong, because it cannot be a board-managed institution. As we have discussed earlier, the board has a separate function and the governor has a separate function. Both have the equivalent powers, and insofar as the board is concerned, they can review the function of the governor They can review the policies which are formulated. They can discuss with the governor, and they can offer their views on the matter, but they cannot direct.
Okay. Mr. Malegam, with regard to the prompt corrective action rules, the RBI release says it was decided that the matter will be examined by the Board for Financial Supervision. The right authority, you would think?
No, in fact, that's correct, because it's the Board of Financial Supervision in the first place which established these prompt corrective action rules.
Okay. And this board comprises both RBI members and board members?
No, the Board of Financial Supervision consists only of the RBI board members. It doesn't. It's an internal committee of the board.
Of the board. Okay. Okay. Would you say, therefore, that this is the way the process should continue, and we should not see any further attenuation or attrition of the Reserve Bank's powers? The board should continue the way it has done.
Yes, I don't think any of these decisions have in any way affected the powers of the Reserve Bank governor. They are reiterating what is the correct position, that the board has the obligation to keep the governor informed about matters in which they have the expertise, to offer suggestions, to be a sounding board for policies, and to make recommendations which then the governor is free to accept or not accept, but to tell him that you perhaps would like to reconsider these matters. And therefore, there's been no change in the position.